from this experience, you go to new and you say, I want to have a new environment. You give it a name. Test2 sounds good. And you then get to select an environment type. So I'm going to create a dev environment, and then I get to select a definition. So what type of environment do I want to deploy? I can go here and see all the definitions available in my catalog, and there's a bit of more information around what might be inside of that particular environment. I'm going to create the account microservice environment here, and I'm going to say I want this to be deleted. Let's do tomorrow 4:30. Then I hit next, and then it asks me to enter a name, because apparently the infrastructure that's being deployed needs a name, which sort of makes sense. Let's try to make that non-existing. Then they can hit create. And you see down here that stuff gets created in the background.
Can you also make it generate a product name based on the things you configure? So you're now doing the account service and it's test, so it's going to be named test dash account service dash and then a random number or something.
Yeah, the thing is, you definitely can. Let me answer the question doing something else. So, I'm going to introduce how you can actually write the templates, and now I'm coming back to your question here. So, you might be wondering, where do these templates actually come from and what does it look like? So, writing a template that can then be deployed can be done in different languages. One can use ARM templates, one can use Bicep, or point to a container image. But what do these things look like? So down here you see the folders that you also saw in the drop-down list when we just created a new environment. So here's the account microservice, for example. And all of these pieces of infrastructure that can deploy need to have a manifest.yaml. That's the starting point. It describes what the service can do. So it has a name, it has a summary description, those kind of things. And this also has the parameter section. So this name down here is the name that you saw that I just needed to add in the UI. But what you can also do is generate that name automatically if you want to, because all the stuff like the environment type and stuff like the project name and the team that you belong to, those kind of things, they are available as environment variables when the deployment starts. So they are available to you, whether you're using Bicep or Terraform or the container, they are available to you, so you can grab them from the context and then do the combination there. You can't do it from the UI. There's no magic thing that you can do there, but you can grab them once you start doing the deployment. And we will actually see that in action when we look at the Terraform example in a minute. But you can add parameters so that people can actually fill in a bit in details in the UI. Probably the most important part here is the runner. The runner dictates what infrastructure language you are using during that deployment. When the product came out, when actually the deployment environment was released, the only language that was supported was ARM templates. Bicep was already for quite a long time a thing, so I don't know why they started with ARM templates, but they did. But lucky for us, you can always create a Bicep file, transpile it into an ARM template, and have that used in the system, right? So there was a way around it. But runner, the property runner dictates the language being used to do the deployment. So this example does ARM template. You can also do, luckily nowadays, do Bicep. So you change the runner into Bicep and you say my template path is, for example, main.bicep. And then it's a Bicep template doing the actual deployment. And since quite recently, you can also point to a container image. So you can just create an image and which contains whatever you need to deploy your infrastructure, which might be Terraform, which might be Plumi, which might be a PowerShell script, whatever you need, or actually a combination of these tools. And I created an image that now can do Terraform because that's what I like to use. And so you can create these container images yourself, and then you need to host them on a container registry, of course, that the system has access to. So you can use managed identities, for example, to give the deployment environment access to the container registry. Creating these images is actually fairly simple. It obviously starts with a Docker image, and there is a deployment environment core image available to you that already contains a bit of tooling. The Azure CLI is already installed. The Azure Deployment Environment CLI itself is already installed. So you get a bit of tooling out of the box. But then you can, of course, install what you need as tooling to run during a deployment. So I'm installing Terraform because that's what I need. And then you always need to copy at least 2 scripts. And those 2 scripts, those 2 bash scripts, are the entry point when a deployment starts. So they need to live in a scripts folder, and then they need to have the name delete or deploy, because that's the convention, that's how the system knows what to run inside the container to actually start the deployment. So in my deploy.sh, my bash file here, this is where you will see very typical Terraform things happening. First of all, it's a Terraform init, for example, and then there's the Terraform plan, and then there's the Terraform apply being run for my container. And this is an example of me grabbing some of the variables from my context. So this is where I get the resource group where I'm going to. This is the Azure deployment environment that I live in, subscription, location, environment type. So I can use this information to automatically generate names if I want to. And last but not least, you can give output back into deployment environment system, which is, of course, especially useful when stuff goes wrong. You can feed that back into the system so you can see the errors and those kind of things. So I think it's very powerful that you can now also have the option to use a container, because that actually opens up, well, basically any way of deploying infrastructure that suits whatever you need to do, and goes beyond what Bicep or even Terraform can do. Alright, let's go. I should have closed some stuff. Let's go back into environment. That's a pity. It actually did fail. So this is the environment that I just tried to provision, and for some reason it didn't work. JSON invalid. This is not a very useful error message, right? Right. Which is interesting because I actually deployed the same project yesterday and actually worked. Infrastructure as code should be idempotent, right? Well,
you changed the JSON file as well.
Yeah, well, the thing could be it deploys a storage account, and I wouldn't be surprised if the thing is that the name that I put in was too long to be in the storage account. It has a limitation. But
or already exists.
I doubt that when I was typing, but maybe. Good.
Just scroll down. Didn't you deploy the one on the bottom? Or is that a different name?
No, I think it was. This was the one that I deployed today. This was what I deployed, I think, yesterday when I was actually testing my demos. But I'm pretty sure I actually used the same infrastructure code template when doing that. Okay. But the thing is that once it deployed, you can actually go into the resources by clicking here. It will actually bring you into the Azure portal and see what it has deployed for you. Those kind of things. So there's a link there. It also allows you to redeploy, set the expiration if you didn't have one, and or actually delete it if you don't no longer need the deployment. So that's a few of the things you can do down here. And now I should also be able to see that environment nicely showing up in the list down here in the Dev Center with the state failed because apparently it did not work. Alright, so We already did the demo. This is how an engineer can do it from the dev portal and create a on-demand environment when he or she needs to.